It was the eve of the SATs, and Jake, my transfer student crush, was mad at me again because I told him I didn't want to see him. He told me to transfer schools. Northwood High is pretty good, he said. I'll have you back when she cools down. Don't make this hard for me, Sarah. I nodded and agreed. I packed my things, ready to leave. His best friend tried to reason with him. You know Sarah has a hearing impairment, right? Do you think she'll be okay at another school alone? Won't she get bullied? You guys grew up together. You used to like her so much. Can you really bear to send her away? Jake leaned against the wall and chuckled. What's there to not bear? That was then. First love can't beat the one who comes after. Haven't you heard? Besides, I'll have her back in 3 months. He seemed to sense something and looked up. He saw me standing at the top of the stairs. His gaze fell on my slightly swollen ear, and he frowned. He instinctively stepped forward and took my hand. Come on, I'll take you to get a new hearing aid. Consider it my apology. I shook my head. No need. That hearing aid was a gift from you anyway. Now we're even. The moment he broke my hearing aid, the stinging in my ear made me decide I didn't want anything to do with him anymore. Jake froze. That hearing aid was a gift he gave me for my 17th birthday. The Evans family never encouraged extravagant spending, and Jake didn't have much allowance. He'd worked 2 months of summer jobs to buy me that hearing aid, dipping into all his savings. Back then, the 17-year-old boy had slipped the hearing aid onto my ear while I was sleeping. When I woke up and started crying in surprise, he'd clumsily tried to comfort me. Jake used to be so good to me. Mrs. Evans had told me countless times that she wanted me to be her daughter-in-law. Jake would grin widely and say, Duh, I've been raising my wife for years. You think I was doing it for someone else? Everyone assumed we'd go to college together, date, and get married. Jake had grown up next door to me with his grandpa. We grew up side by side. He'd wake me up for school and carry my backpack every day. He confessed his feelings for me, and I blushed and said yes. Until Mia showed up and everything changed. She transferred into our class, and I still remember how Jake, sitting right next to me, stared at her for a long time. I knew then something had shifted. Sure enough, Jake and Mia grew closer and closer. He stopped walking to and from school with me. The back seat of his bike became Mia's exclusive seat. Even though I distanced myself from Jake, Mia still didn't like me. She accused me of studying hard just to make people think Jake had made the wrong choice. Gradually, even Jake started to believe her. He began to resent me for it. He'd hold Mia's hand and scold me in front of the whole class for being manipulative. Mia would cry and claim I had no boundaries, that I was the third wheel intruding on their relationship. But I had grown up with Jake. He was the one who confessed to me, the one who said we'd be together after graduation. Jake just stood there, without explaining. My heart completely shattered. I distanced myself from him, thinking we could at least coexist peacefully. Until today. Jake opened his mouth, as if wanting to say something. But Mia, standing across from him, said, Jakey, let's go. Let's go home together. He looked at me once more, then left. Back home, Dad cautiously brought up the idea of resigning and starting his own small business at the dinner table. He carefully asked for Mom's and my opinions. If I start a business, life won't be as stable as it is now. And we're not exactly rolling in money. I was thinking of selling our house and getting a smaller one in the suburbs. What do you think? Mom frowned. Honey, maybe we shouldn't? Sarah's about to start college, and then after she graduates, we need to save for her wedding dowry. What if? We're not young anymore. They knew about me and Jake. So for years, even though many companies had tried to poach Dad from Evans Enterprises, he never wavered. Knowing Jake was an only child, he felt an obligation to stay and became even more dedicated to his work. Dad pursed his lips. Well then, I suddenly spoke, interrupting him. Dad, I support you starting your own business. I knew what Dad was capable of. He had the experience, years in the industry, and the resources. Because of my grandparents' health issues over the years, we didn't have much in savings. He must have really wanted this and thought it through carefully. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked for our input at all. Do what you want to do. Dad's eyes reddened. Mom chimed in gently. You've really grown up, Sarah. Then she smiled at Dad. Honey, go for it. Once the decision was made, Mom immediately contacted a real estate agent. Although our house was old, it was in a prime location. And with Dad setting a reasonable price, it quickly went under contract. The new owners agreed to let us stay for a few more days. Mom and Dad started looking at houses in the suburbs after work, every day, until my birthday arrived. Mom got off work early and asked me to deliver a few slices of birthday cake to the Evans family. I hesitated for a moment, but under her urging, I walked to Jake's front door. She didn't know Jake had forced me to transfer. After all, Jake had maintained that I wanted to transfer on my own. While Mom hadn't agreed with my decision, when she saw the finalized transfer notice, she just sighed and didn't say anything more. Mrs. Evans opened the door. Seeing me, her face lit up. "Sarah, you're here?" "Yeah," I said. Mom asked me to bring over some cake. Just then, I heard laughter coming from Jake's room. It was Mia's voice. Sure enough, the door opened and Mia stepped out, wearing a short, skimpy dress. Mrs. Evans looked embarrassed. "Sarah, Jake brought her." I knew what she was trying to say. I shook my head. "It's okay, Mrs. Evans. I've delivered the cake. I'll be going now." With that, I turned and left. Behind me, I heard Mrs. Evans's voice rise in anger. "Jake, aren't you going too far? Didn't you used to like Sarah? You'll hurt her feelings like this." Sarah must be upset. Then came Jake's nonchalant voice. "Whatever." The next morning, Mom, Dad, and I went to the new house with the movers. Because of the price, Dad had chosen a nicely renovated pre-owned house. It just so happened to be very close to Northwood High. On my first day at Northwood, I declined Mom and Dad's offer to drive me. I knew Dad had just started his business and had a lot on his plate. So I took my backpack and went by myself. The homeroom teacher was a chubby, balding man who beamed at me. When we reached the classroom door, chaos reigned inside. Because I couldn't hear in my left ear, my right ear had become extra sensitive. Someone knocked over a chair, and I flinched. The teacher gave me a reassuring smile. "Don't worry. Just wait here for a second." He strode into the room, hands on his hips, and bellowed, "Quiet down." No one paid attention. His face turned red. "Or I'll call your parents." That finally did the trick. "Today," he announced, "we have a new transfer student joining our class." I walked in, stood at the podium, and gave a brief introduction. "Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah." Sarah with an H. The class erupted in cheers. "The transfer student is so pretty. Quick, check if my hair's messed up." From the back corner, someone said coldly, "Shut up." Instant silence. I blinked, a little surprised. The teacher, looking both tired and amused, pointed toward the voice. "You can sit in front of him." I hesitated. The teacher reassured me with a chuckle. "It's fine. He doesn't hit girls."
Me. So he hits people.
How scary. My desk mate was a girl. She leaned over and introduced herself. "I'm Maddie. Maddie with an I. Just call me Mads." I nodded politely. The teacher entered, and I quickly pulled out my textbook. Northwood's curriculum was definitely different from my old school's. During class, almost everyone did their own thing. Some students slept, others read novels, and a few even did their nails. Paper airplanes carrying cheat sheets flew over my head. The teacher seemed used to it. After sipping her tea a few times, she casually picked up her book. "Where were we?" I carefully reminded her. "The third problem." She blinked in surprise. "Right." Then, staring at me in disbelief, she added, "Someone's actually listening to my lecture?" Later, Mads filled me in. If Northwood was considered a failing school, then Class 13, my class, was the bottom of the barrel. It was where all the failing seniors were dumped. Apparently, when I transferred, my homeroom teacher had practically begged the principal in tears to place me in his class. Looking over at Mads eating ice cream during class, I felt, for the first time, that the world was strange but also kind of vibrant. After that, the teacher seemed a bit more motivated to teach. A few students even started to pay attention. Until school ended. The moment the bell rang, everyone bolted. I noticed the guy in the corner hadn't moved. He was still asleep. The school was about to lock the gates. I walked over and nudged him. "Hey, class is over." He slowly lifted his head, his eyelids heavy. His narrow eyes looked straight at me. A faint smile curled his lips beneath his sharp nose. "Thanks, wifey." Me. This guy wasn't just intimidating, he was calling me wifey right off the bat. A second later, he stood up, and I realized he was even taller than Jake. Easily over 6 feet 1 inch. He offered no explanation. With long, slender fingers, he hooked the collar of his jacket and tossed it over his shoulder. "Let's go," he said casually. "They're about to lock the gates." I blinked, snapped out of my daze, mumbled a quick, "Okay," and followed after him. He was tall and lean. One hand casually held his black bike, a perfect picture of cool indifference. People glanced his way. He didn't seem to notice or care. I deliberately slowed my pace, widening the distance between us. But then he slowed down too. The setting sun stretched our shadows across the sidewalk. His shadow reached all the way to my feet. He turned back, eyes on me. Dude, snails are faster than you. Me. Way too familiar. We walked all the way back and, to my surprise, ended up at the same apartment complex. He noticed too. A smirk played on his lips. Later, Maddie filled me in. His name was Ethan Wilde, Northwood's resident bad boy. Apparently, he had an entourage that followed him around calling him Dad. Me mini mafia boss. During lunch in the cafeteria, I saw it firsthand. A group of guys crowded around Ethan, shoving their meal cards at him. Ethan, I'm broke this month. Spot me. Me too, Dad. You're the best. He must have sensed my gaze because he glanced in my direction. Voice low and bored, he muttered, "Get lost." But he still took their cards. They scattered like flies. So that's what the whole dad thing was about. A few days later, Mr. Henderson announced a new initiative. Peer tutoring. Basically, top of the class helped the bottom. Second highest with second lowest. And so on. All right, let's get started, he said. Sarah, you're first.
Who's dead last? Dead last.
A kid in the front row half jumped out of his seat, hand raised halfway. But then someone in the back stood up, voice calm and cool. Me. The first kid spun around. Ethan, quit messing around. You got 2 points more than me on the last test. Ethan shrugged. Mr. Henderson, I'm actually in last place. Class prez, help a brother out. Yep, I'd somehow been elected class president a few days earlier. Ethan shot the kid a glance. I cheated on the last test. The kid slumped back down, muttering, cheating even when he's only a couple points ahead. Me. So I'm tutoring Ethan. I quickly realized he didn't even try on exams. To test a theory, I gave him a practice sheet. He scored nearly perfect. So why was he failing? I checked his actual test scores. His English and history were atrocious. STEM? Flawless. He was a hardcore math and science guy. I explained a few tricky essay concepts. He got them immediately. Math brains. I was honestly kind of jealous. I'd studied nonstop since elementary school. Gave up weekends. After getting into Crestview prep, I'd pull all-nighters, splashing cold water on my face to stay awake. And this guy understood advanced concepts with one explanation. Over the next few sessions, I discovered something else. Ethan had a photographic memory, except when it came to essay writing. That was a train wreck. So I carefully walked him through structure and techniques. You can add rhetorical devices, idioms, elaborate on your points. He leaned back in his chair, one eyebrow raised. Like, just try using a few idioms in a sentence. He chuckled. Okay. He looked right at me. The class president and I were both dozing at our desks. I could add some idioms to that. I waited, nodding, sipping the juice my mom had brought me. The summer heat was starting to creep in. Then he said, the class president and I were just getting down and dirty on our desks.
Buffed. Juice.
Everywhere. 2 weeks until the SATs. We had practice exams almost daily. The pressure was on. Mr. Henderson had given us the last period for free time. Maddie leaned over to me. After the SATs, my crush and I will be going our separate ways. I raised an eyebrow. It's not SAT season, it's secret crush funeral season. I remembered when we were walking past the track field. She pointed out a guy, calling him her crush. The guy had Coke bottle glasses and always had his nose buried in a book. Maddie had offered him water, and he just glanced at her and said, "Give up, Maddie. I'm not interested in dating someone who's failing." I was about to offer some words of comfort, but Maddie just sighed dreamily. He's such a cold, aloof academic. I love it. Me. Has the school nurse checked Maddie's vision recently? Her judgment seemed seriously impaired. Sarah, do you ever think about dating? Dating. My pen stopped. I felt someone's breath on the back of my neck. Waiting for my answer, it seemed. I shook my head. I'd rather do another practice test. Later that night, Ethan texted me. Practice tests, practice tests. That's all you ever care about. Are they as hot as me? Do they have abs like these? Attached was a picture of glistening, perfectly sculpted abs, followed by 3 quickly retracted messages. Me. Walking home from school the next day, Ethan cornered me in a side alley. Sarah, let's talk after the SATs. Talk about what? He leaned in close, his gaze locked on mine.
Dating.
So he really did like me. I pressed my lips together.
No.
Why not? You only got 3 points on your essay. He ran a hand through his hair, pouting slightly. So what? His jawline was sharp, defined. I smiled. Get an average score on tomorrow's essay, then we'll talk. Ethan gritted his teeth. Fine. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and accidentally swiped to answer. Jake's voice filled my ear. Sarah, pack your bags. You're coming back to Crestview tomorrow. His tone was condescending, like he was doing me a huge favor. As if I'd be ecstatic to jump at his command. I was completely baffled. Just as I was about to hang up, a voice spoke directly into my hearing aid. Babe, you gotta close your eyes when we kiss. And no answering calls from random guys. Jake's voice was sharp with anger. Who is that? Sarah, get your stuff together and come back before I change my mind. I looked up at Ethan's defiant face. I didn't bother explaining. No thanks. I'm happy at Northwood. Jake's voice, tight with disbelief, crackled through the phone. Sarah, don't be ridiculous. This isn't the time to be stubborn. A place like Northwood? You're really planning on staying there until the SATs? Don't you want to go to Harvard or Yale? So, he remembered my dream of going to an Ivy League. He knew Northwood wouldn't get me there. But how dare he? He was the one who kicked me out, humiliated me with that forced transfer. And now, right before the SATs, he wanted me back? When Jake called back, he got the automated message.
Blocked.
He hadn't seen Sarah in over 3 months. No one made him breakfast when he forgot. It felt wrong. Even when he was with Mia, he kept looking over his shoulder, expecting to see Sarah there. The ever-present shadow behind him was gone. He told himself it was just habit, that he was used to Sarah always being there. He didn't overthink it. Every night, he'd go stand outside Sarah's building, waiting until he saw the light on in her window. Only then could he relax. She was just being difficult. Northwood's schedule was different. They started later, so he hadn't bumped into her. But that guy's voice on the phone, it bothered him. Then he thought Sarah liked him. When he confessed, she'd blushed and said yes. They'd grown up together. He knew Sarah. She was shy, conservative, a bit of a goody two-shoes. She wouldn't date some random guy at Northwood, let alone kiss him. She was just trying to get his attention. The thought eased his anxiety. After the practice exam, Ethan cornered me in the equipment room. Average score.
I saw.
But you still have to wait till after the SATs. No dating before then. The SATs were just around the corner. He nodded reluctantly. The next couple of weeks were a blur of studying. Ethan didn't bother me directly. But every morning, there was a carton of milk on my desk. And every evening, I felt his presence behind me as I walked home, a silent guardian. The day the countdown on the chalkboard was erased, SAT day had finally arrived. When I got home, I checked my answers one last time. Feeling pretty good about it, I promptly crashed and slept for 3 days straight. Except for meals and showers, I was out cold. Mom and Dad, busy launching their new business, left me to it, just leaving a stack of cash for food. When I finally went downstairs to the grocery store, Ethan was waiting. He looked up as I approached, his eyes burning into mine. What are you doing here? He stepped closer, the sunlight catching his hair, making him look almost angelic. Almost. Came to take my girlfriend on a date. It's not before the SATs anymore. I blinked. What are you talking about? He grinned, his fingers finding the spot behind my ear with uncanny accuracy. Even through my hair, he touched my hearing aid. I know about your hearing aid. You weren't planning on backing out on me, were you? His jaw clenched, like he'd bite me if I dared to agree. I mumbled. No. He straightened, clearing his throat. Good. Let's go. Date time. His smile was cocky and bright. After SAT scores were released, Mr. Henderson sent a message to the class group chat, inviting everyone out for a celebratory dinner. His treat. The class had done surprisingly well, exceeding all his expectations. The group chat erupted in cheers. We were meeting at 7 p.m. When I came downstairs, Ethan was waiting. His lips curved into a smile as he took my hand. At the restaurant, I pulled my hand away before entering, ignoring his look of mock disappointment. Someone asked, "Are you and Ethan like a thing, class pres? How come you came together?" I shrugged. Not really. Ethan looked up, his eyes full of fake hurt. Yeah, not really. We just made out for like half an hour. More like almost an hour. And there had been a definite string of saliva when we finally broke apart. His lips were still slightly flushed. Luckily, the waiter arrived with the first dishes, and everyone started clamoring about bankrupting Mr. Henderson. No one heard Ethan's comment. After dinner, everyone, hyped up on freedom and adulthood, decided to hit a karaoke bar. Mr. Henderson, bless his heart, came along as our chaperone. After a few rounds of off-key singing, someone suggested Truth or Dare. The bottle spun, stopping on Ethan. He chose Truth and picked a card. The guy next to him read the question out loud. Do you have a crush? Are they here? Ethan glanced at me. I felt a sudden pang of nervousness. I mimicked the other students, feigning innocent curiosity and staring expectantly at Ethan. Inside, I was freaking out. With Mr. Henderson there, it felt way too awkward to have our relationship revealed so publicly. Seeing my discomfort, Ethan's smile widened. Yes. Without missing a beat, he confirmed it. Everyone gasped. Even Mr. Henderson was shocked. He stared at Ethan, his eyes wide. Who gave you permission to have a secret crush right under my nose, Ethan? You know I can call your parents, right? Everyone started groaning. Mr. Henderson, we're adults now. And the SATs are over. Thank you very much. Seriously, if you can't deal, just leave. Mr. Henderson naturally refused to go. He kept staring at Ethan, waiting for an answer. Ethan looked at me, taking a sip of his drink. It's not a secret crush. It's a very public display of affection. I made a move to escape to the restroom. Ethan's voice stopped me. Babe, isn't that right? I could feel every eye in the room on me. My hand reached the doorknob. I was almost free. I hadn't turned around, so technically, he could be calling anyone babe. I stubbornly opened the door. The next second, a hand reached around me, covering mine on the doorknob. Going to the bathroom? I'll join you. The room went silent, then exploded in cheers and whoops. Class Prez was playing it cool. I knew there was something going on between those two. Sarah, how could you not tell me? I'm your desk mate. I can't believe I didn't know. That last one was Maddie. My ears burned. I mentally cursed Ethan's thick skin. A chuckle vibrated against my ear, and Ethan pulled my hand, opening the door wider and stepping out into the hall with me. He closed the door behind us, the sounds of celebration muffled slightly. I dawdled in the restroom, splashing cold water on my face to cool down the blush that stubbornly refused to fade. When I came out, Ethan was leaning against the wall, the harsh fluorescent light emphasizing his sharp features. Even the dark strands of hair that fell across his forehead seemed to have a rebellious edge. It was warm, and he was wearing a plain white t-shirt that stretched across his broad chest, hinting at the toned muscles underneath. A simple silver chain glinted at his throat. As I stepped out, he casually pulled a tissue from his pocket and gently dried my still damp hands. Where is everyone? The karaoke room was suspiciously quiet. Ethan looked down at my hands, his Adam's apple bobbing, his voice a low rumble. It's getting late. I sent them home. Let's go. Time to head back. I already took care of the bill. I nodded. Why did you send them home? He glanced at me. Wouldn't want someone to be too embarrassed now, would we? He straightened up, raising a challenging eyebrow. Sarah Miller, am I that much of a secret? I think I deserve a title, don't you think? A flicker of mock hurt flashed in his eyes. I knew it. The real, hard-to-get game had begun. I tugged at his shirt. He didn't budge. I glanced around, making sure the hallway was empty. Standing on my tiptoes, I quickly kissed his cheek. His lips curved into a smile. He pushed his luck. I still need an official announcement. Resigned, I posted a picture of us together on my Instagram. My phone immediately started buzzing with notifications. Ethan looked smug. Let's go. I'll take you home. Jake heard about Sarah getting into Harvard from. He remembered 17-year-old Sarah, studying late into the night, her weight dwindling with the workload. He'd made her promise to stop studying by 10 p.m. Sarah's eyes would light up when she talked about her dream of going to an Ivy League school. He'd casually said, "Sure, I'll throw you a party when you get in." He knew, even without him saying it, that Sarah would excitedly tell him first if she got accepted. But now he was hearing it from his mom.
It hit him then.
Since Sarah transferred to Northwood, she hadn't contacted him once. Not even when he'd asked if she was being bullied. If she'd just hinted that things were rough, he would have brought her back in a heartbeat. He was so used to Sarah always being there, a constant presence in his life. But then she'd blocked him. She wasn't dependent on him anymore. It seemed she didn't need him. Panic twisted in his gut. He had to see her. After she blocked his number, he hadn't reached out. He'd been sulking, trying to teach her a lesson. But he was the one who'd caved. He'd called her, giving her an easy way back. And that other guy had answered. That casual intimacy in his voice. He knew Sarah was shy, conservative. She wouldn't fall for some random guy at Northwood. Mia had said Sarah was just trying to make him jealous. But now the SATs were over, and Sarah had vanished. He went to Sarah's building. The light was on in her window. He felt a surge of relief. He knocked. Someone opened the door. He plastered a smile on his face. "Mrs. Miller, I'm looking for Sar." The words died in his throat. A middle-aged couple, strangers, stood there in their pajamas. "Who are you? Why are you at Sarah's house?" The woman frowned. "What's Sarah? This is our house." His face paled. "But this is Mr. Miller's house." The man thought for a moment. "You mean the previous owners?" "Previous owners?" "Yeah. We bought this place like 3 months ago." "Where are they? Where did they move?" "Beats me." They closed the door in his face. Jake stood there, stunned. Sarah moved? How could he not know? Why didn't she tell him where she was going? Was she never coming back? He fumbled for his phone, needing to call his mom and figure this out. A notification popped up. A text from his best friend. "Check Sarah's Instagram. She's official with someone." Jake clicked on Sarah's profile. She barely used social media, so even though she'd blocked his number, her profile was still visible. The latest post was a picture of her with a guy. The guy was wearing a white button-down shirt and black slacks, his dark hair messy and rebellious. He was looking down at Sarah, who wore a white sundress. They stood beneath a sprawling oak tree, looking impossibly perfect together. The caption: "What my puppy wanted me to post." "Ethan dropped me off in my building. I'd fallen asleep in the car. Babe, we're here." I opened my eyes, the dim glow of the streetlights highlighting the sharp line of Ethan's jaw, the subtle bob of his Adam's apple. Without thinking, I leaned in and kissed his throat. His body tensed, his breath hitching. A moment later, I realized what I'd done and pulled away, leaving a faint red mark on his skin. His eyes were dark and intense, like he was about to devour me. I suddenly remembered a post I'd read online. Teenage boys, especially at 18 and 19, are full of hormones they can't control. Play with fire, you're gonna get burned. I flung the car door open and jumped out, making a run for the building. Ethan was right behind me, catching my hand and pulling me back. His eyes were still smoldering. "Ethan, what are you doing?" He stared at me, silent. Then, he lowered his head and pressed a kiss to the sensitive skin of my neck, just below my ear. Tit for tat. He let me go. I turned to leave, and a voice, rough with emotion, called my name. "Sarah." I turned to see Jake standing under the streetlight, his face pale and drawn. His eyes were red-rimmed. He walked towards me. "We need to talk." I hadn't expected to see him again. After my dad quit Evans Enterprises, we'd moved, severing all ties. I sighed. "There's nothing to talk about." I turned to go inside. He stepped forward, his voice pleading. "Please, Sarah. Just a few minutes." "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I made you transfer to Northwood before the SATs. Mia and I broke up. I thought you wouldn't leave. It was just a stupid fling. We never really even dated. It's over between us. Can we just go back to how things were? Please come back." Jake had always had an arrogant streak. I'd never seen him like this, so desperate and vulnerable. "We can't go back, Jake." I didn't want to hear any more excuses. I tugged on Ethan's sleeve. He looked down at me and ruffled my hair gently. "Go on up. I'll be right behind you." I nodded and hurried inside. I heard Jake try to follow, but Ethan stopped him. The sounds of a scuffle reached me. I didn't stop. The boy who could take on 10 guys in an alley? I wasn't worried. I heard snippets of their conversation. "Who the hell do you think you are? I grew up with Sarah. We're childhood sweethearts." Ethan's voice, cold and flat. "Oh, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm her boyfriend now." As for childhood sweethearts, Sarah and I, the elevator doors closed, cutting off the rest. Jake didn't say any more. His lip was split and bleeding. The kid packed a mean punch. He heard Sarah call Ethan from her apartment. Her voice, soft and worried. "Are you okay?" It finally hit him. Sarah was truly gone. He remembered one time, after getting into a fight, he'd gone to Sarah's, afraid of his mom's lecture. Sarah had carefully cleaned his cuts with a cotton swab. Does it still hurt? He'd always thought Sarah would be there, a constant presence in his life. He'd been so sure. But Sarah had moved on. Leaving Crestview had been a clean break. She had a new boyfriend. He remembered Sarah's rigid back as she walked away that day, her ear bruised and swollen where the basketball had hit. His friend had sighed. "Aren't you afraid she won't come back?" He'd scoffed inwardly. Sarah's dad worked for his family. Her family lived next door. Her whole life was tied to him. Just a transfer to another school. Of course, she'd come back. That day, as the sun set, his friend had said, "Jake, your childhood sweetheart could become someone else's, the one who comes after." He hadn't listened. Now, those words were a cruel joke. While he'd been so smug about first love can't beat the one who comes after, his first love had become someone else's the one. Ethan and I got engaged the summer before our junior year of college. Ethan's parents came to the engagement party. It was the first time I'd met them since we started dating. He'd only told me he'd grown up with his grandparents in their old family home. As for his parents, just that they divorced when he was 7. Nothing more. Ethan's mother, who had flown in from overseas, was elegant and poised. His father couldn't take his eyes off her. Then my mom went over, her eyes wide with surprise. "Sandy? Is that you? You used to live upstairs from us." That's how I learned that Ethan's family had lived in the apartment above ours. After the divorce, Ethan had moved away with his grandparents. Then the apartment was sold. Over time, I'd forgotten about the little boy who'd lived upstairs. Until Jake's family moved in. I often went upstairs out of habit, looking for Ethan without realizing it. I vaguely remembered a boy who'd buy me candy with his allowance. "If you eat my candy," he'd say, "you have to be my wife when we grow up." The little boy's voice echoed in my memory. I looked at Ethan, stunned. I remembered what he'd said to Jake during their fight. "As for childhood sweethearts, Sarah and I go way back. We knew each other before you even knew where she lived." He'd been telling the truth. And then I remembered that day in the classroom, when he'd first seen me again. "Thanks, wifey," he'd said, with that cocky grin. After the wedding, I received an anonymous gift. A property deed, signed by Jake. After I started at Harvard, Jake tried to contact me a few times. But Ethan was always there, and I refused to see Jake. He'd stand outside my dorm night after night. Then I heard he'd moved overseas and been injured in a shooting, hurting his leg. Mia occasionally asked about him in the old class group chat. Her SAT scores hadn't been great, and she ended up going to a performing arts college in the South on a dance scholarship. She dated a string of wealthy guys, but nothing lasted. She tried to reach out to Jake overseas, but he never responded. Ethan came out of the shower, a towel wrapped around his waist. He saw the deed, his lips twisting into a humorless smile. "Still hasn't given up, huh?" It felt wrong to keep it. What was Jake trying to prove? I tossed it in the trash and wrapped my arms around Ethan's waist. He looked down at me, his eyes darkening. "Someone's feeling frisky." We weren't exactly newlyweds anymore. Why was he still so cheeky? After a long moment, I nestled closer, changing the subject. "So, you recognized me the second you saw me in class?" Ethan nodded, his fingers threading through my hair. "Yep. And you liked me because of when we were kids?" He shook his head.
No, Sarah. It was more than that.
"With you, it was a childhood reunion, and love at first sight, all rolled into one." Music drifted from the living room speakers. Right now, I'm incredibly grateful. My world, after all its detours, still led me back to you. My fingers slipped beneath the hem of his towel, tracing the lines of his abs. He sucked in a breath, catching my wrist. He lowered his head, his lips finding mine. The kiss deepened, growing more urgent, until my hands were locked around his neck. He scooped me up and carried me to the bed, my wrists pinned above my head. His kisses trailed down my throat, to my collarbone lower. His breath was hot against my skin, his moans a low rumble in my ear. My body melted against his. I fumbled with my hearing aid, pulling it out. My last vestige of control. He chuckled, his breath warm against my ear, as if he knew exactly what I was thinking. Then his moans grew louder, more unrestrained. Even with only one ear, the sounds filled the room. The night was still young. After college, Ethan and I got married. When we came back from our honeymoon, Mom and Dad had bought a small house in the suburbs for their retirement. Worried about their old belongings getting damaged by movers, they insisted on packing and moving everything themselves. Ethan and I went to help. The bottom of a box Mom was carrying ripped open, spilling the contents across the floor. I went to help her gather the scattered items, recognizing my old high school textbooks. My fingers brushed against a leather-bound yearbook. On a whim, I opened it. Each page was filled with messages from my Northwood classmates, wishing me luck on the SATs, hoping I'd get into an Ivy League, and wishing me happiness. Below were their own dreams for the future, half hoping for wealth and beauty, the other half to become famous musicians or actors. My finger traced the last entry. Ethan's. Back then, everyone had been passing the yearbook around, scribbling messages. The classroom was chaos. I'd been too busy writing my own messages to read every entry. This was the first time I was seeing Ethan's. His handwriting was bold and messy, just like him. Name: Ethan Wilde. Height: 6 feet 2 inches. Address: unknown. His message to me was a simple, hope you get into Harvard. But at the bottom, under aspirations, he'd written 2 words: marry you. Bonus chapter: Ethan's perspective. Ethan never told Sarah. The moment she walked onto the stage and introduced herself, he knew. Those familiar eyes. That soft, clear voice. Hi, everyone, my name is Sarah. Sarah with an H. He remembered a little girl in blue overalls, tagging along behind him. My name is Sarah. Sarah with an H. He'd become friends with Sarah. He'd spend all his allowance on candy for her. My candy is only for my wife, he'd say. He'd known, with a child's certainty, that a wife was someone you spent your whole life with. Sarah would say, then I'll be your wife. Thanks to him, 6-year-old Sarah got her first cavity right before losing her baby teeth. Seeing her standing there on the stage, in the maroon plaid skirt and white blouse of the Northwood uniform, his heart had skipped a beat. His wife was back. Someone noticed his stunned expression. He glared at them and pretended to be asleep on his desk. He hadn't expected Sarah to be assigned the seat in front of him, listening to her talk to Maddie, breathing in the subtle floral scent that clung to her. He stayed behind after school, waiting for Sarah to finish studying. He knew she'd wake him. Maddie had told her about the school locking the gates.
And she did.
Unable to help himself, looking at her beautiful face so close, he blurted out, "Thanks, wifey." Then, catching her stunned expression, he'd smirked and walked away, trying to play it cool. Back at his apartment, he dreamed of his childhood. He was 7. He and his mom came home to the sounds of his father's voice and a woman's giggles coming from inside. Then, the woman's frightened cries, his mom's heartbroken sobs, and his father's angry shouts. He'd run in, wanting to protect his mom. His father had shoved him into his room and locked the door. The sounds of smashing glass and yelling echoed from outside. Then silence. Sarah had opened the door. She'd hugged him close as he huddled in the corner, terrified. She'd brought him a bag of candy, her favorite. She didn't know what had happened, but she knew it was something that scared all children. Later that evening, his parents came back, each holding a small red book and a stack of legal documents. His mother, her eyes red and swollen, packed a bag and bought a one-way ticket overseas. His father had sneered and left with his secretary, leaving him alone. His grandparents picked him up late that night. Sitting in the car, he desperately tried to memorize the route back to his old apartment. But by the next morning, it was gone. He tried to go back again, but his grandparents, thinking he was trying to find his parents, stopped him with a sad sigh. He just wanted to find Sarah. He knew, even at 7, that his parents had abandoned him. The city was huge, so vast that even after years of searching, relying on fragmented memories, he couldn't find his way back to their old apartment. The city was small enough that he found Sarah again. A reunion of childhood sweethearts. And love at first sight. Summer never really fades, and some connections are destined to be rediscovered.